Hello and welcome to the Bpositive Bloodstream, a podcast providing insights, stories and experiences from and for all those affected by acute leukemia and beyond. My name is Jonjo and I'm the founder of Bpositive and the host of the Bloodstream. I want these podcasts to provide help, inspiration and belief to all people. Bpositive is both my blood group and my adopted mantra that I held throughout my treatment. I hope you enjoy our interviews, and if you wish to get in touch with us, then please do so by emailing us at info@bpositive.org.uk, or you can find us on Twitter at b_positive_org. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first podcast of 2019. So, Bpositive Bloodstream, I'm aiming to do another run of these throughout the year, covering all topics and things that I feel are relevant and that may help those in need. Certainly those people affected by leukemia and beyond, and anyone can be affected. You know, I'm always keen that, and I've had great feedback from people who haven't even been directly affected by the disease themselves, but they might know someone who is, so they find a lot in what I'm saying and the people we interview and the issues we address. So that's definitely my ambition for this, and I want to keep doing it. It seems to be working well for those in need, so yeah, I wanted to chip away and certainly kick off the year in the right way. And listen, the turn of the year is an interesting time. I think it's interesting for two reasons. There's two different ways you can look at it. It's the January blues. It's the getting over Christmas, the whole dealing with that debacle. And by the way, I hope you've all had a great Christmas and New Year. But another way of looking at it is it's a chance to set new goals, new ambitions. Now I'm just talking generally here. Yet when you're affected by leukemia, like I was and like many of our listeners are, there's a very different set of goals you may need to set yourself and a different mindset you can apply to it. The reason I wanted to talk about the importance of looking ahead and staying positive in the new year is because you need it when you're in the midst of treatment. I mean, we all need it anyway, but when you're in the midst of cancer treatment and treatment for blood cancer, which is what I talk about because it's what I know, it's absolutely essential that you have something to focus on. Now, when I was diagnosed in December 2006, a lot of you may know, but for any new listeners who may not be aware, that's the case. Now, people often say to me, God, that must be the worst time of year to get diagnosed, if there is such a thing. Well, actually, I turn it on its head. I think it was probably the best time because people are off work, get a load of presents. So I was about 9 days out from Christmas when I was diagnosed. And I had the support of everyone around me. That's a real big thing, and a hugely important thing for when you're battling any kind of illness, I suppose. But I had my friends and family with me when I needed them most, so I wasn't too concerned with the timing of it. And looking back, I actually think it was a bit of a blessing. However, I just move the chair a bit closer. However, after the new year, and I mean, I was in hospital obviously throughout that period, the festive period, along with, I'm sure, a lot of you guys are. But there's naturally a bit of a lull. You know, I'd had the highs of being supported by my family and stuff. But I was moving forward into the new year, and I needed to adopt a bit of a business time look on it, and see this as an opportunity to now start getting to work. The initial shock was over. The diagnosis had been done. I was underway with treatment. There was no holding back due to the prognosis, and the high white blood cell count that I had meant we had no time to waste. So I needed to motor forwards. And listen, I found this difficult. I found it really difficult. It's the turn of the year. It's miserable. It's grey. It's wet outside. Not that I was outside. I was in an isolated room. But I had to really try and pick myself up and get going. Now, it's not as if I'd been home for Christmas and came back in. I'd been diagnosed, and I was dealing with the reality of this illness throughout Christmas. I remember actually even on Christmas Day, I was just hoping that my niece and nephews, that they'd had the presents they wanted and all this thing, because I knew how important it was to them. Now, after this had all subsided, people were going back to work. I soon found myself in a position where I didn't have as many regular visitors. I didn't have the same structure I had before that, when everyone was coming at all different parts of the day. Now listen, everyone's got real lives. Everyone's got their own lives to get going on with. And actually, more importantly, I had mine to be going on with. treatment was going to move at a rate of knots now. I was going to go through different rounds, different chemo, all with a plan of getting me into this remission. And little did I know at the time, but to look ahead for a bone marrow transplant. Now that sort of detail would come near the time, and I've spoken about my transplant and things like that. What I just wanted to focus on now is that immediate January. Where was my head at? What did I feel I needed to do? And as I said, I really felt I just wanted to try my best to stay positive. I kept my journal still. That was still part of my routine. But I knew I had to get to work now. I knew I had to get my head down and really try and put my mind in a place of focus on just getting myself treated. Now this sounds quite bravado and maverick, and it's certainly not seemingly, it's not meant to, because the reality of it was I'd have some days where I felt, yeah, I could take on the world. And there was other days when I was in tears, floods of tears, and I had a big, huge dark cloud over me, and trying to shift that dark cloud on a daily basis when you're 23, 24 years old, battling cancer, when everyone else is at work, you feel quite lost. You may well feel quite forgotten and caught up in the real world, the world of cancer. I just remember feeling I had such a long way to go. I knew that I wasn't likely to be away from any chemotherapy until well into the year. You're talking summer, and that was actually the case. But that was part of the plan. Okay, that was part of the plan. And trying to put your head back in that space is very hard to do. But actually, a small part of me relished the fact that, do you know what? This is my day today. This is my goal now, to get through this, to get through the chemo, to blast this leukemia away, and either prepare for a transplant or prepare for the next steps, whatever they may be. But I really felt that in order to do this successfully, I had to take this in chunks, bite-sized chunks that are manageable, certainly psychologically manageable, because if you try and take on the enormity every single day of your illness, it's going to become, well, it certainly may become a little bit overwhelming. And I found that at times. There were some days when I felt like I had a wave over me, a wave of emotion, of the reality sinking in. It would often be when people would go home, because I'd be all jovial and having a joke and trying to see the light of situations when I'd have visitors. I didn't want to waste their time being morbid. I already had cancer, my hair had gone, I knew what I was up against. I didn't want to waste time just discussing what may be, or or very morbid things, or the reality of a cancer treatment. I wanted to hear about their lives. I wanted to hear what they'd had for dinner. I wanted to hear what they'd done at work and whatnot. But away from those people, when they'd dispersed and when they'd gone home, that's when I'd often sit there and the enormity would come back to me. So it is a hard task picking yourself up every single day. But I'm living proof you can do it. I'm living proof you should do it. You should try your hardest. Listen, I know it's not easy, but no one does this journey for you, and the reality is that for everyone's sympathy and everyone's help, wish to help me, there was no getting out of it. Sadly, I remember saying to my brother, I wish I could just do a run to Australia or something absolutely, totally nonsensical, but anything. I would take any challenge in the world over doing this, and that's how it felt. And trying to pull yourself out of that mindset is difficult. Trying to continually look forward, see the positives. It's difficult if you take it all in one go. So I started taking it in steps. What was my next step? Do you know what? It was to get out of isolation. As much as I loved it, I knew I had to move forwards. I needed to try my best to get home, and really just try and chip away at my treatment. Now, you often get a treatment plan. It's some form of diagram. It talks in various stages and various phases of your chemotherapy treatment and your treatment for leukemia. Now, I had a 2-year one, and I was 4 weeks into it. So January was a month where I really had to try and equip myself and change my mindset into trying to strive forward. I would fail miserably on some days. I would break down in tears at any little thing, because listen, the drugs are doing a lot to you. You know, you're very emotional. I was young. I would keep getting reminders of the reality of the situation I was in, which, although I was doing well in my treatment, I felt up against it. I felt I had 2 years of this to come. Why had my life been put on hold? I felt very, I felt like I had a lot on my plate, which I did. And listen, my family and friends, everyone was there for me. But ultimately, in those days, I tried to keep myself occupied. I tried to read. I tried to learn as much as I can about my illness. That doesn't work for everyone, because I'm sure some people would like to pass that buck on, that responsibility on. I wanted to get some semblance of control over my illness. Certainly in this day, it was the new year. I wanted to feel, listen, it's the new year. I want to look ahead, just like anyone else does. Where do I want to be by summer? What do I want to do? Do I want to change jobs? Do I want to get fit and healthy? Yeah, I wanted to do all of that as well. But actually, I just wanted this bloody leukemia to go. So that's where my ambition lay, and I had to just try and chip away at it and take each step in different milestones, take each day at a time, take each week at a time. A big thing for me was actually about 6 weeks later, so we're talking into February now, still at the start of the year, I was allowed to go home and to leave my isolated room for a period of time for I think I had a long weekend and stuff like that. Now, they could see I'd benefit from that, and I absolutely was craving for it. I mean, God, can you imagine feeling carpet on your feet after walking around a hard floor of the hospital for days on end? I relished it. But listen, it came as a bit of a consequence, because I'd spent a great weekend. I remember one point, and this occurred to me bizarrely. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because it came up relatively recently, a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago. I'd been to Malvern with my girlfriend. That's quite near from where I'm from, although not where I live, because I live in London. But I was driving back. I'd visited my mum and family in Bromsgrove. We went to Malvern in the West Midlands, and on our way back, I started taking the route on the motorway, on the M5 Junction 6. Going past Junction 6 really reminded me of when I used to come home, when I was allowed home from hospital. And I started sharing this story with my girlfriend, saying that actually, and I didn't plan to, I just started talking about it. So being out of the hospital and being home was such a relief. It was great. I could go and catch up with friends. I felt like I was normal again. I felt like I was away from the hospital. I wasn't just a tag of a patient. I mean, even though I still was, I was in familiar and comfortable surroundings, and it's the little things like that that mean an enormous amount. When your life's compromised, and when you're facing the severity of the illness that I did, and that I'm sure many of you listening may either be yourself or certainly know people who are. But at the end of that weekend, I knew I had to go back. And listen, I was like, yeah, it's fine, I'll go back. I've got this lined up, I've got to do that. Start my chemo, I've got another chemo coming up. So this was a Sunday evening. Now, Sunday's just not a good day. People go back to work. I mean, God, can you imagine going back into a hospital having just had a couple of days out with your family? I put a bit of a brave face on it, and I felt, do you know what, I'll just go back in and tackle this. And my auntie came round just as I was packing up to go, and I'd just been with my immediate family really on the weekend, with my mum and my brother and my sister. And as I was, and my auntie and my cousin came round, and I just remember that they were there as we were packing up. They didn't know I was there, I don't think, or they didn't know I was about to go back to hospital, so it wasn't ideal timing, but at the same time it was great to see them. But as I was packing up to go, I just broke down. I was hugging my auntie at the time. It may even be my cousin, I can't remember which one it was, but the reality hit me that I had a reminder that I was going back to hospital, and because they were saying goodbye to me, I just didn't deal with it well, and I just broke down in tears. And when I was on my way back from Malvern, I was telling this to my girlfriend, and again, it all came flooding back. It made me emotional talking about it, and that's something I'd kind of put out of my mind. I hadn't thought about that, and this happens every now and again to me. I think back, I mean, when I do these podcasts, I have to draw on various things that I've maybe not buried in the past, but just haven't thought of. And this was one of those moments that I was in the new year. It was the start of the year, I was pushing forward, I'd been allowed home. Actually, it felt like I was going back, and it felt like you're taking a step back going into hospital. It's not the right way to look at it. The right way to look at it is it's a step forward. You're another day closer to putting all this behind you, which was my goal, and which is what I did, and which is what we're all hoping you guys will do. But it was hard. It was hard stepping back into that world, and it really overcame me, and it was difficult, and it was again a case of, and I went back to the hospital, and I think I had tears with the nurses there, because I was very much a big sort of jovial character and big personality that wears his heart on his sleeve. and I would clown around and joke around in hospital when I was there, but actually it was the transitioning of home back to hospital. When I was in hospital, I was fine, because that then became my normal. But it was having the carrot dangled of going home to then going back. It really hit me for 6, and it caught me out. It caught me by surprise. I think that happened on quite a few times. I'd maybe get a little bit upset when I'd go back. But actually, the more I didn't live far from the hospital in Worcester, so Bromsgrove was about 25 minutes away. So the more regular I did that, the less of a enormity it became. But certainly in the first instance, in February when I was allowed home, I found it difficult. But the next day, I was back in. There was a plan for treatment, and I wasn't crying. I wasn't upset, because I was back to normal. It was just it was a strange moment, but it was one that I'll always remember as having taken me by surprise. And listen, that can happen, and there's no shame in that. But the important thing is I had to pick myself back up and think, right, what's next? I've got some asparaginase injections, I've got methotrexate, whatever it may be. I had to get to work, and I had to get focused on my treatment, because the more focused I was, the more in control I felt. So yeah, I definitely had January blues. I definitely had back to hospital blues in the new year, and I'd had a great Christmas, but it was time to look forward, and actually it was time to start being positive again. I know that's a massive pun because of the charity name, but it really does come from a real place. It's easier said than done being positive, of course it is, but with the help of family and support behind you, you've got every chance. Trying to adjust your mindset, and there's all these kinds of support now for well-being and health that I think, and the aftercare I think needs to improve radically, as I've said before, for cancer patients. But certainly if we can help the mind in those situations, then I think you'll get better results, and certainly positive results, and you'll put people in the right frame of mind for when they're going through their illness. That was the case for me, and I found that by trying to put the worst behind me, and trying to put those New Year blues and actually ascertain a positive outlook on things, it would give me every chance of moving forward. I mean, that was the goal here. The days turned into weeks, and actually the goal was to move forward with my life, to put this behind me. And when I speak and I counsel and chat to people affected by leukemia or any illness, because I've spoke to people across all different variety of illnesses, there's a common truth, and it's we all want to put this away. We all want to get past this and move forwards. And that's the goal, and that's what we're striving to. So set yourself targets, set yourself goals. Don't overwhelm yourself by looking too far ahead. Let's do them per day, per week. And before you know that, the seasons will change. It will start turning into spring. It was lovely fresh out. I could go out. I'd go home for the weekend. I would come back. I was still dealing with my cancer, but it felt more manageable, and it felt like because I was setting targets, and even like on the next round of chemos this week, even just knocking that down, I'm walking forwards, and it's progressive and it's positive, and that's ultimately what I really want to hammer home, that if you take it day by day, those days will soon turn into weeks, and before you know it, you'll be knocking these things down. It's easier said than done, putting on a positive outlook and putting and just seemingly being able to put the worst behind you. Of course you have dark days, absolutely, and that's expected. But anyone listening to this who may be going through treatment or in the midst of treatment for their leukemia, blood cancer, or any illness, stay positive, set yourself targets, chip away at it, and use this part of the year to look forward for what you want out of the rest of the year, and go chase it. If you set yourself targets and goals, look forward to the changing seasons and the changing of your situation, I'm sure you'll be where you need to be in no time. It won't be too long before you're looking back thinking, do you know what, that 6 months has actually flown by. It felt long and hard at the time. There are dark days, there's ups and downs, we know that. You never want to hide away from that. But I'm getting to where I need to be. And my next stage then was, right, when can I leave Worcester Royal Hospital? And that day came, and I went home for a few months before my transplant, and then I set myself a whole new set of targets, and you pick yourself up again and you have to go again, and it's sad to get back into the hospital, but actually part of me had a bit of adrenaline with this. Actually I relished this opportunity, because now the next stage is I've done Worcester, I've done my consolation, now I'm going to have my transplant, and let's attack that day by day. So I think trying to apply the mindset of small milestones, chipping away at them, makes the whole treatment far more manageable, I found anyway. Thank you very much for listening.